So, how are you, David? Ben David. I'm just gonna call you David. How are you? I think you know these guys. See, this is the worst thing I've seen so far. It has a USPS certified mail stamp, but it's printed out in a manner that makes me think that it was actually printed online. So we've got one of those online print labels, right? You see the URL at the bottom? And it was printed out, but I don't think it was actually paid for. You can do that. And then another copy of the same letter. And then they backdate it to make it look like it got sent at the same time the one I received and that it was certified. It's not, right? So it's one of those things. How many times do you try to effectuate a hit before it catches up with you? But here's the problem. Every time they do this, something else happens. So now they don't just owe me the exodus from this infamy. But I was thinking, those ranches, very important, and at a very important time. And the means were at hand, and all of the other elements would also have been at hand. But the problem was that somebody had engaged in an act of profanation and did not want to admit it. And they persisted in trying to maintain this course of action where somehow they were entitled to continue on and on and on and on and on and on. Now we're unfortunately in a very difficult situation because we're not just talking about those specific properties. We're also talking about what would have been the brokers. You see, each of those properties I found was through an agency, and that agency had a specific broker that had identified that property. And I would have had to have contacted that agency and asked to speak with that broker and asked to speak with the agent and then try to get in touch with them. And then they would have been talking to me about who it was that was going to help me with the actual agreement, the actual mortgage agreement, the actual title, the actual deed. I did, used to work for a real estate attorney who was also on the board of directors of one of the major title companies in the country, by the way. I'm not unfamiliar with these matters. I also understand, at least in some states and in some contexts, you're required to have an attorney. Not necessarily in Texas, though, right? But it makes a difference if you do. It also makes a difference as a matter of principle. If you understand, for instance, things like underwriting fees are actually something that could potentially help you in securing the property. And if you have people or you have matters that are very significant, might require a lot of consideration when it comes to safety, including long-term safety, including when it comes to their future or the futures of their communities based on investments, cost that could come up to and potentially including healthcare cost. And things like underwriting fees are very important, especially if you've already gone on the record publicly and already been able to be complimented by public record that was provided by people elsewhere in understanding this importance. And then we're in this situation where all of this is being effectuated by someone who told me within 10 days of meeting him about what was going on during the SNL crisis. He would just give me little tidbits, things I didn't know about the assembly lines, the tables. And just had one loan agreement. And just basically an assembly line. You go, they look it over, stamp it, tell you to go down, stamp it, tell you to go down. And in that whole period of time, you got a line of credit working, flipping, maybe increasing to a certain point. But then at the end of the day, sorry, deal didn't work out. And you had that whole clearance window. This is exactly what I told my former colleague in Detroit about before he went behind my back and started organizing with everybody else who was in my class. And then when they lost, they were too ashamed because they went behind my back and brokered the deal with him to even acknowledge me. And somehow I was the one that was supposed to leave. The problem is, in that particular society, there are certain requirements for acknowledgement, and I met mine. But their deals, well, they went bad. And so at a certain point in time, people have to really evaluate what the long-term interest is in maintaining this charade, that they're the ones best suited to continue this sort of cyclical nature of defrauding and defaming and not delivering, right? Now, there are certain things, at least for a period of time, I have foregone. I've been abstinent in more manners than just ones relating to carnal realms, right? This is important. We all should have a period of time when we are allowed to have a sort of spiritual catharsis based on things that comport with our faith tradition. But at the same time, that should not be allowed to be made into something exploited by persecution, including in manners that do not yield long-term results for those who think that they are possessed of the means by which to accomplish such things. You know, one of the things I was told is that they were mighty upset. That the SNL crisis was basically a setup by guys that expected to be able to get a certain kind of fee. Per agreement they flipped. And they lacked their fees. Their fees kept them happy, and then somebody decided to change the law and say they're not allowed to have that kind of a fee structure. What do you think it would do now if the people that were trying to do something like, I don't know, sell a ranch valued at a couple $100 million, you got a nice parcel, nice package, you got some land, you got some amenities, you got some people understanding that land can be used for certain things, maybe you even got a wildlife preserve. But you're not going to be able to get paid adequately because everything that went into the setup was done with deceit and fraud. And they keep having to move more and more and more and more and more, and it balloons and it balloons and it balloons and it balloons. I mean, these things happen periodically. There's only so many times you can try to offset the losses to the same considerations of people. And I say considerations because it's also about state of mind, right? It really is. What was the intent? Well, this has gone too far. See, because now, instead of, how much did I say it was? What does it say here? $21,551.64. I would have been satisfied 24 hours ago with somebody saying, you know what, under the circumstances of COVID and all, we actually understand that you would have provided more than enough to actually say that you had a good faith intent to deliver on that. We're not talking anymore about a little under $22,000. Not at all. You should never have come to me a second time. I told you. Why'd you have to follow me like that? You owe a lot now, boys and girls. You wanted to play like you were my students and you were going to teach me a lesson? Indeed you have. You've taught me a very, very, very important lesson. And you've taught me you cannot pay for what you did. You don't have it yourself. And that means you're going to have to get other people to help you pay for it, one way or another. That's what you taught me. That's what you taught me. You're going to have to get other people to help you pay for it. And see, the problem is the quality and the character of the women among whom I sought to be able to secure for myself and for my community very basic resources that are not only constitutionally protected in the state of Texas, but actually constitutionally required to be provided to us. Do you understand the implications? You were required to provide us with that. No strings attached. Everything else you did. Well, obviously, you've already gone to somebody else to help you with, right? You didn't have the authority. From the people of Texas, you did not have our authority. Somebody else already helped you. So this is not a problem. You can pay. You already have those networks. You already have them set up. You already have your colleagues or comrades, right? And they're more than happy because they had so much faith in you. They were willing to see you through thick and thin, no matter what happened. They were going to make sure you were taken care of. Oh, you just got yourself in a bad situation. Sorry, I can't pay right now, but can you help me out? That's where you are right now. Do you need me to put together a bill? I mean, it's very simple, especially if you're somebody interested in insurance. See, I've already done more than enough work right now in the state of Texas alone. Do you know how much and how valuable that would have been if it had been done in good faith? Do you know what a quality insurance plan you would have on a variety of real properties had you addressed this in good faith before it even came? Because I know what this is a derivative of. I know what this is. But unfortunately, now you've compromised that. And that means what you're going to be doing is accruing liability associated with all those other people that invested in homeowners insurance, or all of those other people, for instance, that have some other kind of insurance paradigm that needed underwriting to secure things that might need a QSIP associated with somebody else's mortgage. I know it seems complicated, but it's really not. It was very important that you honor your commitments. And I'm trying to do the same so I can understand. But at the same time, you see already how much you flipped that in less than 24 hours. Maybe 48, I'm sorry. Weekend clearance, you went from $21,551.64. And we got $7 billion you got to deliver on pretty soon. If you can't meet what you just set up today, how are you going to get there? That's a big deal. Big deal. That's not just about me, by the way. But in order for you to be able to do that successfully, you're going to have to deal with me. And not in whatever the fuck this is. This isn't even mail fraud. This isn't even securities fraud. It's something else. And it didn't work. Right? 707.